Hello, all you beautiful people out there. I hope you've had or are having a fantastic day. If you're new around here, welcome. My name is Salam, the teenager who talks about teenage stuff because there simply isn't enough of it on the internet. If you guys aren't new around here, you'll probably notice that we have a little bit of a different background. That's because we're doing a little bit of a screencast today. Yes, we're taking it way back. A lot of you have been asking about Personal Project, and today is the day you get to see that video. We're going to be running through an entire screencast of my personal project. I've annotated it, not fantastically because it's kind of hard to critique your own work like super in depth, but I've annotated the main sections that you guys need to have. And on the off chance, well, not on the off chance, majority of you are probably new around here, I'd be super appreciative if you hit that subscribe button and hit that like button as well. We're on the road to 200 subscribers by the end of the year. And also, this is the last video of the year. Can you believe, wait, is it? Yeah, no, this is the last video of the year. Can you believe that? That's absolutely insane, guys. 2020 is over. It's been a bit of a wild ride. I hope all of you are staying safe out there. Merry Christmas. Well, it'll be after Christmas when you guys see this video, but Merry Christmas nonetheless. I hope you guys had an amazing day and a Happy New Year in advance. But anyway, let's get on with the video. It's gonna switch screens super quick, like, whoa. Yeah, and you should probably see me in a mini quarter screen right now. Anyways, so we're gonna start with what actually is the personal project. Well, for those of you who don't know, it's a part of a program called the MYP, and if you're on this video, I'm pretty sure the reason you clicked on it is because you're in the MYP and you're looking for some advice on personal projects. So what actually is it? If you're in MYP year 4, so year 10, you're going to get introduced to this very soon. I'm sorry, I just hit my water bottle. But it is a 3,500 word written report. It's an essay essentially, and then it's also a product that you have to create. It can be either physical, digital, but it has to be some form of creation. When do you start the personal project? Well, you started mid-year 10. So if you're at, well, yeah, so any of you year 10s out there right now, if you're watching this video at the time of it being released, you probably won't have been introduced to personal project yet. Well, at least I don't think you should be, or should have been. You guys will be starting very soon though. It's mid-year 10, it's a 2-year sort of process that goes on until the end of year 11, which is my next frequently asked question, was when do you actually end? So mid-year 11, just before your e-assessments and your e-portfolios get handed and everything. Sorry, just before your e-assessments begin and your e-portfolios get handed in. Next things next, we have marking. So the entire project is scored out of 7, like most of your other MYP subjects. And there are 4 criteria. So there's an A, there's a B, there's a C, and there's a D. And that's actually how you're going to structure your report. We'll see that when we actually get onto my own report and the annotations of my report. And of course, it's an essential part of the MYP. You can't pass MYP without actually passing the personal project. So it is pretty important. It takes up a lot of time, so make sure you allocate time efficiently to it and don't slack off on it. What is the personal project actually about? Well, it's kind of in the name. It's a personal project. It's something you are interested in. It doesn't have to be related to the subject, but I highly recommend that it is. But what can you do? Anything really. I put down here, the choice is up to you. There are no restrictions apart from the guidelines that you're given by the IB, and just explore your interest. We'll go on how to pick a topic later on. Well, actually, it's the next question. But really, this is a time for you to be expanding upon what you enjoy doing. And my biggest tip, don't do a personal project on something that you don't enjoy doing. It's gonna be a very boring process if you don't pick a topic that you're interested in and you don't want a year being taken up doing something you don't like doing. So that's why it's really important that you pick a good topic, which is the next question here. So I like to call this a 4-step process. I've made this up approximately 5 minutes. No, I'm joking. But this 4-step process should help you narrow down what topic you'd like to explore potentially. And with point number 1 being is pick a subject you like. Now, the extended essay, which you'll be doing in the IB, which is down the road sometime, actually needs to be related to a subject. But with this personal project, it doesn't, which is fan-freaking-tastic in my opinion. But you should still look at least subject areas that you like. So if you're interested in the sciences, chemistry, potentially physics, then well, do something related to those subjects. And if you are planning on applying to like a top-notch university that checks back on MYP grades and they see that I'm sorry, I just hit my bottle, and they see that you've actually done a project relating to a career path that you want to do, that'll look fantastic on your application. So step number 1 is pick a subject you like. Step number 2, why do you like that subject, or what part, oh, that was a horrible circle. Why do you like that subject, or oval, sorry. Why do you like that subject, or what part of that subject interests you? Why did you actually say like, oh yeah, I want to do my personal project related to biology? But why though? Like what actually what interests you in that topic? So that's the second tip. Number 3 is there something physical or digital you can make? Say for example, you picked English and you really like poetry and you want to do your personal project on something around poetry. Well, that's pretty easy. You could write a book of poems, you could write a singular poem, although I don't know how viable of a project that is, but there's something physical or digital you can create. If you like physics or chemistry or something science-based or even arts-based, I have a couple of friends who actually made guitars for their personal project out of reusable material, and that was such a cool idea. So there's a potential personal project idea you could do, but be original, don't just steal that idea. And then number 4 is, does it link to the guidelines? So you'll be presented with a set of guidelines depending on what year you're in. So the IB will set out a document which says, oh, personal project needs to involve this in this year, and whatnot. So you need to make sure that it's linking to your guidelines. And most of the time, any project can link to any set of guidelines. It just depends on how you twist it. Okay, now moving on to my actual project. I don't know if I can show you this, but I'm going to anyway, because there's some like IB restrictions, and well, if I'm not allowed to show you this, then at least you will have watched this video and learned from the mistakes that I've made and some of the tips that I've given, and I'll be the one in trouble. So anyway, with the cover page, so this is the beginning. This is it. This is where my actual personal project starts. So title, personal project, very important. You don't actually have a name or school or anything. It's completely anonymous, just so there's no bias when external markers are marking it. Now, this is the most important part, the research question or the topic. For me, I picked, to what extent can solar energy be used to solve global problems such as lack of universal energy access using innovation and critical thinking? It's pretty mouthy now that I read it. 1 year or 2 years down the line, but this is where you like derive whatever topic you want into a question. Don't stress about this too much, but we've already talked about how you can pick a topic, but you just need to form it into a question. Don't stress about making it sound super cool. Just as long as it's focused, then that should be good. And this is your word count, so I did actually hit 3,500 words. Being the weirdo that I am, I wanted to make it, well, not perfect, because evidently, oh, by the way, before we move on, I did score a 5 in the personal project. I did get predicted a 7, but then when the grades actually came in, I got a 5, and I'm pretty sure that's because they marked our entire year group down, but I don't know. So keep in mind that what you're looking at is technically a level 5 report, and but God predicted a level 7, so I don't know, make your judgments based off that. Okay, anyway, I'm spending way too long on the front page, let's move on. We've got your table of contents, which is your next page, and I split mine into the 4 sections, which is criteria A, criteria B, criteria C, and then criteria D. Then I also have a bibliography, which is essential, and then your appendices. We'll talk more about appendices later, but as you just heard me mention, each of these sections is split into the 4 criteria. So you have criteria A, which is investigating, criteria B, which is planning, criteria C, which is taking action, criteria D, which is reflecting. So that's, you can split up your project whatever way you want, but most supervisors will, I'm fairly sure, recommend this way. Bibliography we'll get into at the end of the video, and appendices we'll also get into at the end of the video. Just a quick note about your appendices, they need, like, it's a max of 10 pages, but you can cram whatever you want into those 10 pages. However, I would be careful with making things too small on those appendices, because then examiners are going to get frustrated and you don't want that. Also, appendices are a good tool to showcase some images or whatever you want, but the report should be a standalone piece of work. Your report shouldn't rely on your appendices, if that makes any sense. Okay, here we go. First part of the report. So I've put down annotations pretty much everywhere, all over the page. And then on the left-hand side, for every section, you'll see the approximate word count. Okay, so criteria A, investigating. The first subtitle of criteria A is my project. And here, well, you actually need to talk about what you're doing, why you're doing it, and some background information. What interests you in the project, why you want to do the project. And yeah, so here, why you're doing it. And you also need to talk about why it's challenging. So you can't pick a project that, you know, is going to take you 5 minutes. This is the thing about writing a singular poem compared to writing a book of poems. Of course, writing a book of poems is much more challenging. You can dive deeper into your artistic capabilities. You can link it to so many more things than just the one poem. So you need to talk about why it's challenging. My particular project was pretty technical, so hence that was the challenging aspect. And it's this entire My Project section is approximately 200 words. Also, if you have any questions about any of the sections, please leave them down in the comments below. I'll do my best to answer them in as much detail as possible. Okay, next question, we have my goal. So what do you actually want to achieve by doing your project? And you're going to want to set some SMART targets in this section. So SMART targets stands for, I'm pretty sure, specific, measurable, achievable, I don't know what the R stands for off the top of my head. I'll put it somewhere on screen right now, and T stands for time. So yeah, what do you want to achieve in your project? What do you hope to achieve? What is your target audience, your time frame? Why is this achievable for you as a student? And this section is going to take you approximately 150 words, or it's going to set you back 150 words. Okay, next. Global context. This is a very crucial aspect of your entire project. So your project needs to be linked to a global context, one of 6, which I'm sure you're familiar with. If you're not, I'll put a picture on screen right now, if I remember to do it, because, you know, it's me and sometimes I forget to put things on screen. But yeah, global context, you need to pick one. For my project, I picked fairness and development because it was a bit of an unconventional project. I had a science-based project, so you'd think I'd pick scientific and technical innovation, but no, I picked fairness and development because I liked that link more, and it's all about in this global context part, you have to determine your global context first of all, and then why does it link? And also, you're going to be referencing your global context throughout your entire piece. So make sure it's a strong enough link that you can bring it up whenever you need to, or whenever your supervisor tells you, oh, put the global context in this section. And this part will be approximately 120 words. Next part is your prior learning and subject-specific knowledge and ATL skills. So your prior knowledge in school, you have to talk about what things have you learned in school that will help you with the project. That's pretty straightforward. You also have to talk about some prior knowledge outside of school. What things have you done outside of school that will help you with your project? And of course, mention your ATL skills. ATL skills, you'll see that they're mentioned a lot throughout the entire project. That's because they're super important. They're your approaches to learning, and you'll find them on the IB website, anywhere on the internet. You have to constantly make reference to how you've developed them throughout your project and what new ATL skills you applied to your life. And this section is going to take you approximately 200 words. Next, we have the research portion. And okay, first of all, here is a reference to the appendix. We'll talk about them at the very end of the video. But for your research process, you have to talk about how you analyzed sources, what sources you actually used, how you've planned your research, so any charts you've made, any organizational systems, anything along those lines. You also have to talk about where you're going to use that research and why it's important to your project. And also, once again, you have to talk about why it's challenging, or how you've challenged your research skills, and have you developed any new out-of-the-box thinking skills. So, for example, I used IB books in an MYP course, which is, you know, impressive. Not really, but the examiners will see it as impressive when they mark your paper if you're using IB books at an MYP level. And this is going to take you approximately 250 words. Okay, so next section, we're going to be moving on to criterion B. I'm going to try and get through this as quickly as possible because I don't want this video to drag on for too long. And as I said, if you have any more specific questions, you can leave them down in the comments below, and I'll do my best to answer each one of them. So with the first section in planning, it's the criteria. So you guys actually need to make a criteria, like a rubric, like an assessment rubric for your project. They're called the design specifications, and also your product plan. And so why are you making this product? What are some of the design features that are going to be implemented? How are you going to assess this product? I'm pretty sure so here where we mentioned self-testing, it's a specifications chart, all of which you'll see later on in the video at the end when we go through the appendices. But I created a success criteria rubric, which is essentially an assessment rubric that analyzed 5 things about my product And when we come on to the reflection part at the very end of the research report, this success criteria rubric is going to be very useful because we're going to take our product and we're going to assess it against that assessment criteria rubric. And this part is approximately 280 words. So yeah, and also I forgot to mention this highlighting part. Creating the design specifications chart allowed me to further develop my product, make sure it is completely related to my project, and that it doesn't stray away from the intended purpose. So why are you planning out your project essentially? Next thing we have is the plan and modifications to the plan. Modifications are vital to include in your entire project. They're so important. So this first little section here is some more planning skills and time management. What sort of organizational systems did you implement to help you plan out your project? I use the Gantt chart, for example, and I also use the timeline. We'll talk about some of the organizational systems that you guys used. Also, the second paragraph right here is entirely dedicated to modifications according to challenges that I faced. So maybe I needed to go on a family holiday during the summer, so I needed to shift around some of my time plans, even small things like that. Talk about things that challenged you and how you overcame those challenges. That's what the examiners are really looking for. And it's approximately 200 words. Now next, once again, we have those self-management ATL skills. Talk about how you manage your time. This is really important. Also, you can link these two paragraphs together. So how you overcame challenges and how you manage your time. So again, organizational methods, Gantt charts, timelines. I even talked about diary entries. I made a series of diary entries to, to help document my process. And this section is also 170 words. Also, a couple things that I forgot to mention. Talk about how you kept your ideas organized. This is really important. So all those spontaneous ideas that you had whilst working on the project, where did you keep those organized? Did you write those down anywhere? How did you implement them in your project? Also, reflections and improvements. How did you reflect on your process? How do you come up with improvements to your product? And very important, they don't actually want to see a perfect process. And by they, I mean the markers. They want to see you come up with, they want to see you overcome challenges, and they want to see you develop as a learner, as an individual, as an IB thinker. So even if you thought a challenge was minor, put it in, because they want to see you overcome those challenges and they want to actually see how you overcame those challenges. That's super important. And how successful were you at the very end. Next part of the report, the third part, is criterion C, and it's taking action. So this is actually the creation part of your project. So this paragraph is probably the most important one in your entire report. My product in response to the global context and the criteria. So how did your product meet the global context? This is really weird. So previously you should have mentioned how it linked, and now you need to talk about how it's a representation of the global context. You need to actually fully in-depth analyze the global context using something called an iceberg chart. I'll show you what an iceberg chart looks like at the very end. I know some of these things I'm saying probably sound super complicated right now, but don't worry, I'll make them clear at the very end when we actually see those things. But yeah, this entire section is talking about how my product actually links to the global context, which is I'm telling you, it's probably the most vital part of your entire report. And then also you need to talk about how it linked to your criteria. So how did you look at your criteria and did you make your product based off that? Did you keep referring back to your criteria? When I say criteria, I mean the success criteria that you guys should have created earlier to self-assess your project. And also talk about your choices, why you chose that global context, and once again, justify it. Justify the hell out of that global context. And this section is going to be approximately 260 words. Bear in mind, guys, as well, when I give you these approximations, you don't have to actually make them these long. They can be a lot longer, a lot shorter, depending on how much information you guys can get in a given word count. Next part is the ATL skills, thinking, communication, and social skills. Now, these ATL skills, they can be whichever combination you choose. So I just chose thinking, communication, and social because that's the skills I found I expressed the most during this entire project. So the ATL is crucial. Your approach to learning alongside your global context, the most important sections. So as you guys can see, I have a paragraph for each ATL skill, and then I also have a little bit of an organizational system here. This first paragraph, I just talked about thinking, how I had to critical think in order to make my project more efficient, more successful, because it was a science-based project. So there's a lot of thinking involved there. I also talk about interviews, and I just realized I completely misspelled interviews. There we go. Never mind. Yeah, sorry. Interviews. There we go. Interviews. So that's the communication part of it. So I actually went out, got some expert opinions on my project, got a couple of my friends' opinions on my project, and that really helped for some peer feedback, which then allowed me to have a more developed criteria in this section later on. And then also, how did these skills help improve your project? So especially something like communication, how did talking to your peers or getting some feedback help make your project a lot better? This next part here is social skills, and I explored new methods of data collection. So I actually went out and tested or showed my product to a bunch of random strangers and got their opinion on it, told them what it was about, and that was a great way to step outside my comfort zone. Another thing that the IB are looking for, how are you challenging yourself, not only from an educational standpoint, but also from a social standpoint. And this part is approximately 650 words as well. Now this last section of the ATL 650 word little chunk that we've been looking at is how you actually organize your ATL skills. So this appendix H here is an ATL skills chart, which we'll see later on as well. And that's how I managed to stay organized. And also, how will these skills help you in the future? Another critical part. So here, as a plus, I can refer back to this chart in the future to analyze how I can improve these skills when completing other pieces of work. You know, so something along those lines, just to show the examiners that you're not putting these skills to waste and that you're planning on using them in the future. Even if you're not, just put it in there because the examiners like to see it. Now, criterion D, the final part, which is reflecting. And number one part is your product evaluation, which is probably the chunkiest section on here. So this first paragraph right here is dedicated to self-evaluation, looking at my own progress, talking about how I felt about the process, and also talking about how other people felt about my project, exhibition reviews. Now, what the personal project also entails that I forgot to mention at the beginning of the video is an exhibition. You guys will need to present your project in a stall sort of scenario. If you're coming from the PYP, the year 6 exhibition is very similar. At your exhibition, I want you guys to be taking interviews, to be asking people to rate your project. For me, I had slips. When people came to my stall, I had them fill out the slip and then drop it in a box. And then I went through all those interviews, processed the data, and you'll see it in a chart. I'm pretty sure it's Appendix M that's on screen right now. This next paragraph is you're talking about, again, the global context. In this section, you guys need to be literally, I have written down here, literally grading yourself. You have 6 to 7 out of 10, level 7, level 6, I don't know, whatever else is there. You literally need to be giving yourselves a grade and then talking about how that reflects the global context, your entire personal project process, talk about your results of the exhibition surveys that you've done, talk about how you've processed that data. Have you made any charts? Have you put it into an Excel sheet like I have, which I'll show you later down the line? So just essentially just an entire evaluation of your process based on how you feel you've achieved the global context, your success criteria, and how other people feel about your project. This next part here is expanding knowledge and understanding the global context. So this part I like to call is, and did you gain any new outlooks or understandings of the global context that you haven't done before? So as I said previously, my project is a science project. So you think that global context that I'd pick is scientific and technical innovation. Well, I picked fairness and development. So it's kind of like, well, how do you link a science project to fairness and development? That's the entire point. How did I? That's where this expanding knowledge comes in. That's 150 words approximately. Now the very, very last section is the IB learner profiles. How did you achieve them and which ones did you achieve? This is also crucial. ATL skills, IB learner profiles, and global context. The 3 things that I will preach forever when it comes to the personal project or anything related to the MYP. So here I said communication and how I interviewed an expert in the field that was associated with my project to get their opinion on my product. And then how you develop these skills is also really important. And then again, the second learner profile that I had a chance to develop was thinker. And again, overcoming problems and relating everything to the global context. How did you display being a thinker? How did you overcome any problems using thinking skills? And how did you thinking about the global context, for example, make you more aware of the entire scenario? 240 words approximately. Now we move on to the very, very last section of the report, which is the bibliography. Nothing too like exciting. It's just Harvard referenced and in alphabetical order for extra brownie points, because that's how you actually do it in a formal paper. But yeah, the Harvard referencing is the main thing I'm pretty sure the IB want to see. And now moving on to the appendices. So Appendix A, which is okay, so at the very beginning of my report, right here, I'm pretty sure it should be in bold somewhere. Here it is, Appendix A, just on screen right there. If we go down to Appendix A, that was talking about how I analyzed my sources. So this is how I did an OPVL. I did some handwritten ones, I did some computer generated ones. My next one is my design specifications, which is Appendix B. So I talked about my aesthetics, I talked about the message of my product, the cost of my product, the function, everything relates to my product and what it needs to be like. Appendix C, which is my actual, like you can see, this looks like a typical MYP rubric, levels 0, 1 to 2, 3 to 4, 5 to 6, and 7 to 8, and what you need to do to achieve those levels. This is what I use to assess myself in the Criterion D part of the project. Appendix D, this was my timeline, a little creative. I used my iPad, so March, then to May, to April, then over summer, end of summer, September, all the way. Your timeline doesn't need to be a bang, 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 bang sort of Excel, Word document sort of sheet. It can be creative. They like to see creativity, and especially if you have a supervisor like mine who loved to see creativity, then that's awesome. Here's a Gantt chart with some plan to start, when did I actually finish it, plan to finish. Here you can see some red boxes showing that I need to adjust my timings. Appendix E, this is the global context iceberg chart that I was saying. So what are some of the more obvious links to your global context? And then underneath the ice is where, or sorry, underneath the surface of the water is where the subliminal links are made. Some of the more unobvious or not obvious links. And Appendix F is just some of my diary entries that I had, my creative process and all of that jazz. Appendix J is the survey that I passed around to people, to random people, to my friends, not the actual survey that I did during the exhibition. Appendix H is my Atl Skills chart. So this is actually how I organized my skills that I developed and how I actually developed them. So when it came to writing it, the process was super easy because I already had all my points down. I just needed to put it into an essay style format. My next thing was some more data processing. This is my actual product. If you guys are interested what it actually looked like, this is one of them. This is number 2, prototypes, all of that jazz. Appendix K, interview with an expert. Appendix L, some initial designs. And then Appendix M, this is the survey that I actually passed around at the exhibition. And that's it. That's my entire personal project. I know that last section was a little fast, but I don't want this video to drag on for too long, and I just want it to be a brief summary of the entire personal project process. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, I'd appreciate it so much if you left a like and hit that subscribe button. As I said at the beginning of the video, the subscriber goal is 200 subscribers by the end of the year. Can we do it? I don't know. We have 15 more left. I think it's a little bit out of our reach at this point, but we'll see. I never know how you guys surprise me. It's crazy. But I'd just like to take this moment to thank all of you guys for the past half a year from the bottom of my heart. When I started this crazy thing during summer, it was lockdown. I was bored and I was like, hey, I just finished up the MYP. Let's give some people tips. Being a student, so I thought I'd just pass on my knowledge. And it's developed into something really cool. And I'm proud of what we've achieved here on YouTube. We've almost got 200 subscribers, which I never thought I'd get. I thought I'd probably get a couple videos out, get to 50, but it's been pretty awesome. And I'd like to thank all of you guys out there for making it such an awesome journey for me. Once again, I hope you had a fantastic Christmas, even though this year has been a little bit weird. Have an amazing year ahead of you for 2021, and we'll see where the next year brings us, guys. So thank you so much. Have an awesome day. And for the very last time in 2020, I will see all of you guys later.